There is another bit of a bummer. I like these control horns. Got a little piece here you break off. It goes down on the center part from the other side, and it's got kind of a ratchet in it that helps lock it. I still glue them. Got one for the rear flap, one for the aileron. The bummer is this part where the control horn goes in this slat, front flap, whatever you want to call it. That's so thick that this part of that control horn's not going to stick fully through it. So, though I won't be liking it, I'll be putting this one in just as far down and glued as much. There won't be any cap on the other side. That's also glued to this ratcheted shaft, to the wing on the other side, and this part on the first side, like these are. That's why I prefer these. I just think they lock up a whole lot better and have less chance of working loose, but I guess that's what daily inspections are for. So, guess we'll get started here again. We're going to have to start by making some control horns. It won't be a balance problem or anything like that, so it just might not cut off purty. Yikes, I'm going to get killed here. I'm trying to get these arms off. I did the one for the flaps. Just got two on there now. That'll give me what I want without getting in the way. And I'm using dikes because that's all I've got to do this with, really. And I'm only going a third of the way across where the ear is, and when I cut that, oops, this one didn't do it, of course. Whoops. You hear that hit the toolbox behind me? Just trying to nip that off by a third or even a half has been shooting plastic all over the shop. That one did it on both. This one's going to do it on all three. That one hit the camera and landed back in my folded arm. So that one's, like I say, not at all pretty. But that's going to give me what I need up there on the aileron servo to work the ailerons. And of course that goes in a neutral position with the aileron at neutral, so the aileron has both up and down. Okay. See, it's quickly and easily solved. Although ricocheting sharp plastic parts around the room, 6.5 dozen the other. And again, the flap servo has to go fully. If you just put it in the neutral position, then it'll have up, and you can't push this any further than up, and you shouldn't that one either. So this one has to be set all the way over to one end point, and then the center point is half flaps and the other end point is full flaps. That's the way I'm going to use it on a 3-position switch. I'm not going to mess with having 20, 50, 70 and full flaps. It can be done, but I'm not going to mess with that on this one. So now we can proceed on. I've got the servos glued in and set. I've got the control horns glued in. I used hot glue on the servos. I usually do that. You know, you can use the alcohol and get hot glue to break loose pretty easy if you have a bad servo. That's the way I've always done the servos. It holds them well until you want it to come out, and then it's a little easier to get out than some other glues. The servo control arms that come with the kit are these. And this portion right here down to here is almost exactly the same size as the control horns I've been using for years. Not much difference in them at all. There is a slight bit of difference, but not much. I only got one left. I had to order some today. They come Wednesday, so that'll at least slow down this build. So I'm using those nylon ones instead of these that come with the kit. As I said, this one, the only way it could be mounted was just to be sticking down in the foam, because there's not enough. It's just too thick for it to come all the way through. So that one's got glue on it around the edge and then around the top, just as much as I could get. This one did well. This is the way I like to see them. It is a little thick though. As you can see, there's not much, even enough to really cut off. Usually nip those off with the dikes. There's not enough sticking out there. Hopefully there's enough glue on it, and I kind of pushed it hard and indented that one in. Now this one up here had virtually, it was a little thicker. This has even less of a top on it, because this aileron was thicker than the flap down there. So I'm going to let those three places dry before I start putting the push rods on them. Like I say, I only have one of these, so I'm not really going to be doing the other wing tonight. So that kind of sets that to a halt. This servo is all the way at 2,000. I use my servo tester with the PWM monitor, so I could read the value of the PWM. So this servo will rotate almost 90 degrees to what it is and be very much in the back, which will pull both of these in from the position they're in. I'm going to connect the control rods and the ball end control, the ball end linkages with the servo in that position. Keep adjusting it till it's just about perfect, and then I'm going to cut loose these foam joints where the ailerons and slat in the front. Now I did install this control horn backwards from what I normally would install it, and that's because there's a little indentation right here that tells me that that slat, if it goes all the way closed, if I did it the other way, this part right here kind of leads the horn itself. This way it's got as much rotation as it can before this starts touching that foam right there. So that's a little strange. I've never put one on in that direction before. But this is not a case of a control surface. This is more a control component that just moves to a position and stops. It doesn't move around after that. It's either going to be half flaps or full flaps, not bouncing in between dynamically. So I hope that all that'll work good. I dry fitted the connector here for the rear servo, which is coming out the bottom of the wing here. Got 3 wires here. Rear servo on one side, VTEL. Ailerons, already got the Y connector that comes with the kit in the ailerons. And then this one is the flaps servo. Just 3 little components there. I've still got to put these carbon fiber rods in the ailerons right there. And I don't really have these wires glued down. I generally do that with epoxy. Put the carbon fiber rod in with epoxy. And I also run a bead of epoxy over this to hold it down. And then I come back with a paper towel with isopropyl alcohol on it and kind of smooth that epoxy down, even on the aileron. Excuse me. Even on the aileron carbon fiber rod out there. And that kind of dresses up the top of the epoxy where there's not much on the foam and makes it quite level. So I'll be doing some epoxy work in the end here. I'm not going to make a channel yet for any kind of antenna or component. So that means when I get all this done, I won't be gluing this pod on. I'll be leaving it off in case, let's say I put a antenna out there in the end of the wing. There's going to be a coax coming all the way back through here for a 4th wire sticking out of here. It needs to go under this. So I'm held up from duplicating this work on the other airplane, except I can put in the one control horn, like say, in the flaps, and go ahead and put the other 2 servos in the other wing half. That won't take all day tomorrow. Maybe, well, I'll have a good day's work cutting these push rods and getting this wing ready to go. But getting real close to wing completed. Not much left to do. Oops, this one ran a little long. I'm trying to do better. Thank you, everyone.